Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Robbie Falk here from On Three Sports in the Starkville Daily News. A uh, a guy that's proud to cover Mississippi State Bulldogs for you guys, and I appreciate you guys tuning in each and every week for Talkin Dawgs. We are back. We are ready to roll for another week here on the beat, and Mississippi State has a big week ahead. You're coming off your sixth consecutive loss. And had you told me before the season that Mississippi State had lost six consecutive games, I would not have thought that things were kind of where they were with Mississippi State as far as the program's concerned. I think the energy is pretty good. I think the vibes are pretty good, but vibes don't win you ball games. You have to go out there and win them, and Mississippi State has to go win games. So while that's all fine and dandy and things start to feel much better for Mississippi State and what they're doing offensively and competing and things like that. The only thing that matters at the end of the day is whether or not they can win games. And that's what they need to do here in the back half of the schedule. And, we're kind of, we've crossed that back half portion of it. And now you're down to the final 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. This is it. This is the back half here, and Mississippi State starts that with Arkansas on Saturday. You got Arkansas, UMass, both at home, Tennessee on the road, Missouri at home, and then Ole Miss on the road. So you're at the point now you got 3 home games remaining. You got 2 road games remaining. I think that's right. Am I right on that? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 5 games left. My math is not mathing. My brain is fried. There's just been a lot going on with Mississippi State, but this is a huge stretch here for Mississippi State for the future of this program. I think, and it's not going to be really defined on a certain win total this year. I don't think, but I think that certainly helps Jeff Lebby moving forward. That he's able to sell that. Back half of the schedule, I finished 3-2 or something. Can Mississippi State get to 4 wins? Can they make it look a lot better than it does right now? Because at 1-6, there's not a whole lot that's impressive about Mississippi State on paper. When you actually watch them, we see a team that's much improved. We see a team that's got a young quarterback that's really exciting, some really good receivers that you can build on next year. We see the offense kind of coming into its own a little bit. The play calling's been really good from Jeff Lebby. There's certainly some big issues with this team, like the defensive side of the ball, that has to be, something that improves drastically for Mississippi State. And I mean, across the board changes, talent acquisitions. There's got to be a huge push in the offseason to make that defense better. But I think that's something that can be fixed in time. The big thing for me is you have an offensive-minded head coach in Jeff Lebby who's been good everywhere he's been offensively. And the offense is showing to be quite prominent at points in games against really good defenses. And that's a big question mark checked off for me. To see that Jeff Lebby is not a Joe Moorhead, that he came in here, tried to force his offense a certain way around the players and didn't pattern it around the players that he had, and it failed miserably. Well, Jeff Lebby is running his offense his way, but also changing it when he needs to change it with a true freshman quarterback and having a lot of success. I think with the right hire on the defensive side of the ball and some talent changes that you can be better, but you cannot have an offensive-minded head coach that doesn't have a good offense because you're not going to make the change there. So that's a big positive for me. And that wasn't anything that I was truly concerned with, but it still is refreshing that Jeff Lebby looks like his offense is going to be really productive here. Now can you get a defense to match it? And it doesn't have to be an elite defense when you have an offense like this, but can you have a top 50 defense regularly at Mississippi State to go along with that offense? Because if you do, then you're really cooking. And obviously that's not going to happen this year. This defense is not going to finish in the top 100. Right now, they're trying to get out of that bottom 10. That's how bad this defense has been. But as strange as that seems, they were right there on Saturday with a couple of stops. They could win that ball game, and that's how you feel against Georgia. Texas was a 3-touchdown game, but a few stops here and there, a few things offensively go right for you. It's a different game. Georgia and Texas A&M were a little more attainable for Mississippi State in the second half, and the Bulldogs just couldn't do it. Against Texas A&M, the big issue for Mississippi State in that game, and I know people are going to say, well, they didn't really do anything offensively in the second half, and they didn't even have 100 yards. I get that. Texas A&M made adjustments. That's one of the best defenses in the country. It really didn't bother me that their offense kind of struggled at times in that game. But I think that for me, the defense was the big issue. You have, as far as a total stat standpoint, it wasn't all that bad. You look at it in A&M, they had 136 yards rushing. You held them to 3.7 yards a rush. This is one of the better rushing attacks in the SEC. I thought that was okay. Only 217 yards passing, and you had 2 interceptions. That's very good. 353 yards of total offense. That puts you in position. You gave up 622. You gave up just over 600 against Georgia, 522 against Texas. This is a perfectly okay defensive stat sheet for Mississippi State until you get down to the fact that on third downs, they were absolutely atrocious. 9 of 14 in the game, and that's them missing their final 3 third downs. They started this game 9 for 11 on third downs. They had 146 yards at that point on third downs alone. They had 113 on the rest of their plays, and that was with 21 more plays run on first and second down and on fourth down than there were on third down. Third downs lost Mississippi State this ball game. I've said it a couple of days in a row on Thunder and Lightning. If you take away 4 first downs on those third downs, if they're 5 of 14, which is still, it's not terrible third down conversions, but that's a little, when you look at the down and distance, that would be normally what you would probably get. Mississippi State went 5 of 16 on their third downs. So normally, if a team's facing 3rd and 7 or longer, I think 5 for 14 is probably what you're going to get. Instead, you got 9 for 14. So if you're 5 for 14 in this game, who knows what happens? Mississippi State is, at that point probably forces, we'll say 3 more punts because Texas A&M might have gone for it a couple of times. I'm just bouncing some things off here, but you're punting the football more. You're giving your offense more chances. You're wearing down their defense a little more. Your offense at that point, put the offense over 400 yards at that point. It's just really frustrating that it worked out that way. But the first half was a disaster from a third down standpoint. You had a 3rd and 13 converted. You had a 3rd and 11, a 3rd and 23. And like I've said, these third downs weren't even close to being stopped. They were, fairly easy conversions for Texas A&M. But that just shows you kind of where this defense is. You do everything right on first and second down, and you can't get off the field. That's where this team is right now. We've seen it before in Mississippi State sports where they're just so bad at something that they find ways, even when they're doing things right, they find ways to screw it up. And that's what's happening with the defense. You do all the right things, first and second down, you're getting to the ball, you're tackling, you're stopping them in the backfield or at the line of scrimmage. You're keeping everything in front of you to force that 3rd and long, and you still can't get off the field. That's the mark to me of a bad team or a bad side of the ball, we'll say that. Because I think the offense is finding ways to succeed. The defense just can't. They cannot prosper. And, another game where you're not forcing punts, you're not getting off the field. I think you had 2 punts in this game, if that. Yeah, 2 punts, 43 yards a punt for them. They've had like 4 or 5 punts in SEC play. They can't get off the field. Now, they are forcing turnovers. They've been really good about the turnovers here in the last couple of weeks. That is a major plus for them because if you're not able to force punts, at least get off the field by forcing a turnover, and State's been able to do that. And they dropped 2 pick sixes. There was a drive right after the half. State had 2 passes thrown right to defenders. Nick Mitchell dropped one. Corey Ellington dropped one. Both of those, if they were caught, had a very high percentage. I'm not going to say they would have been pick sixes because you never know what's going to happen right there. You could trip, you could get caught, whatever. But a very high probability that Mississippi State runs that back for a touchdown, and it's a single-digit ball game at that point. The whole game changes if you're able to do that. Instead, Texas A&M ended up scoring on that drive, and that again, that is why Mississippi State is where they are defensively at this point. And they forced a field goal, I think, on that drive, but you get a touchdown offensively, and so that's a 10-point turnaround for Mississippi State. And they were down in the ball game 21-17. You score a touchdown. You actually at that point you would have taken the lead. So it's just very frustrating. It's just where Mississippi State is right now. But I think you've taken enough from those last 3 games that you should have confidence coming into this ball game against Arkansas. And this is a team that you have beaten routinely for the last decade. Since 2013, Mississippi State has won this matchup regularly. And I think they've only lost 2016. Is 2016 the only? No, they lost in 21. So 2 losses since 2013 for Mississippi State against Arkansas. A lot of these games have been really close. This has been a competitive series for the most part outside of the Chad Morris era. But State has owned this series for the last decade. And that comes after Arkansas had owned it. So for the Bulldogs, you're playing a much better Arkansas team, much more efficient on the offensive side of the ball. Bobby Petrino runs a really good offense. He's done it before at Arkansas. The people there love him. He's very comfortable there, and he has a quarterback, I think, that can make big plays for him, but he can also be a little erratic. So I'm looking at this game this weekend, and I'm telling my defense, we need to make Talon Green beat us with his arm. It's what they should have done against Arizona State. They should have sold out to stop the run against Arizona State and make the quarterback beat them, and they didn't do it. That's what I'm doing this week. I'm selling out to stop Arkansas's run. If they beat me on a big play, they're probably going to beat you anyway, offensively with what they do. So I would rather hold them down in what they do fairly well, running the football, and force the quarterback to beat them than sit back, have soft coverage on these wide receivers, and let them kind of gash you a little bit running the football. And again, I thought State defended the run fairly well against a really good A&M rushing attack. I'm selling out to stop the run this week and try to create a little chaos for the quarterback. So I don't know where I've settled on this game yet. I think State's been playing well enough in the last 3 weeks. They can win this ball game, and they can win. To me, they can win the rest of these ball games. I wouldn't go as far to say I think that they can win at Tennessee just yet, and Ole Miss is definitely a stretch too. But Arkansas, UMass, and Missouri are very winnable games for Mississippi State. If they come out and play good, clean football on the offensive side, and they're getting stops on defense, they're forcing turnovers, allowing your offense to do some things, wear down their defense, I think State can win this game. Again, I'm not sure where I'm going to fall on that. By Friday, I will have my answer. But as of today, I just think State can win, and we'll go from there. All right, guys. So you guys are the regulars for the most part. So the ones that aren't, I want to encourage you to put your questions, comments in the box over there. And also, if you're watching this for the first time, please subscribe to this channel. Show us a little love there. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps us out, and I appreciate that. Give this a like if you don't mind. Share it, whatever you want to do. I would greatly appreciate it. And with that, we'll go into some questions and comments. Kobe Walker always seems to be first over here. Women's basketball recruiting is heating up. It is, man. Last week when we talked, I believe when we talked, there had been just one of those commitments had come in. No, the second commitment had come in. Jayla Lampley had come in for Mississippi State to go along with Natalia Gray. And then they got Madison Francis, a top 40 player, 2 top 40 players. Actually, Madison on 3 is a top 20 player. So 3 top 100 recruits for Sam Purcell in a week's time. basically finishes out his 2025 class in a week. He got 3 really good players, a couple of forwards and a guard. Just a really good class, easily the best class that Sam Purcell signed, in my opinion, and just a great building block for next year's team because I think that next year's team after this team, I don't know what to expect from this team. Hopefully, you got a team that can sneak into the tournament or um, just be, kept kind of keeping your head above water. I just don't know what to think yet. But just don't be bad this year and bring in this recruiting class. You have something to really sell next season, I think, out of the portal and going with the players that you're going to be bringing back. I think Sam Purcell is doing a really good job. So Zachary Tucker, Brent Venables will be the DC next year. That would be a turn of events from Jeff Lebby working for Brent Venables to Brent Venables working for Lebby. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with him. They got a lot of money in the line with him. I don't know if they'll make that move just yet, but he's not been good. I mean, to me, Lebby was kind of holding them up. The offense, what they were doing offensively last year was holding them up. They weren't very good his first year, but the offense was solid. This year, the defense looks solid, but they have no offense, and they just got rid of their offensive coordinator. So it just it doesn't look good for them. Tom T, I liked your follow up to the Craver question when you knew he wasn't going to say anyway, asking which receiver will go if Craver can't. Yeah, I knew what his answer was going to be because Lebby at this point is not talking about injuries. Since they have the injury report, he's just putting it all on there. No details. We get nothing whatsoever, which, hey, whatever. If you stay consistent, that's fine. I knew he wasn't going to say anything about Craver, but it opened up a question that, if he can't go, what's his thought process on the receivers? What does he think about what he's got? And basically, he said he really likes his group that he's got there, thinks the depth's good. My guess would be you probably move Coleman to the slot, and you probably see a lot more time for Jordan Mosley. Mosley will probably start. Stonka Burnside will probably be playing more. Stonka played a lot on Saturday against A&M. So still got some really good talent in there. I mean, Akari and Kevin Coleman have really been coming along here lately. Coleman is far and away State's best receiver right now. Akari has made some really big plays the last few weeks. Jordan Mosley, it's time for him to step back up. You need him to be big here in the next few games. I don't know what's going to happen with Craver. I don't know what the extent of the injury is or when he'll be back. My guess would be he doesn't play this week. We'll know Wednesday whether that's the case or not. I feel like it said they're going to be, doubtful or out for him, but we'll check that when it comes out. But State does have some options there at receiver. James Booth, Lebby says a lot about how he feels about the defense by what he doesn't say, in my opinion. I don't think he's pleased. No, I don't think he is either. I mean, it's just top to bottom, it's just bad. It's not a good defense at all in any phase. I mean, they struggle to defend both the pass and the run. They've struggled to tackle consistently. They're not very fast. They're not very big or strong. The defensive line, to me, is where it all starts. They're just not good enough or deep enough up front to compete in this league, and that's a problem. That State has got to get back to producing those elite defensive linemen, the defensive lines that have been able to stop just about any rushing attack that they go up against. State, that used to be a staple for Mississippi State. And if they couldn't score, you knew that the defense was going to keep them in the game. Now you feel like you got to outscore everybody with, 40 points a game. Atypical, this year's team is eerily similar to the Bulldog team under Cream before Mullen was hired. I don't know about that. That team's offense was terrible. I think this is more similar to the 2009 team. It's not really the record that's similar, but it's kind of the building block year. You're close in some games against some really good teams. This is kind of what I was hoping this year would be, not from a win loss perspective, like I said, but you, this is playing out exactly like I felt like it needed to for Mississippi State. In that you might not win these games against Georgia, Texas, teams like that, but teams look at you after the game and say they're kind of moving in the right direction. Now they need to win some of these games down the stretch because these games are the ones where like you can get. I don't think that Georgia was gettable. Um, Even though you lost that game by 10, there was too many things that had to go bad for Georgia and right for you down the stretch to win that game. A&M certainly was a gettable game for Mississippi State. You kind of dictated how that game played out. It wasn't really A&M; it was Mississippi State not doing what they needed to do. So that's kind of how I see it. I think this is more 2009, just my opinion. I think 2008 was more like last year. Coy Van, do you think there's favoritism with some players? Broomfield playing over Kelly because Diego came over with Barnes, Lanier with Hutz. No, I think Broomfield's playing better than Kelly. We just haven't really seen anything from Kelly that um, says he's better than Broomfield. Broomfield, since he's been healthy, he's been a little more consistent. I think with the Lanier, I think he's talented enough to be out there. I just wouldn't have him at corner. James Booth not getting off the field on that 3rd and 23 is ridiculous by any standard. That was like, when it happened, I just hear cowbells like slamming the bleachers like that. I've heard that before in the stands, but that was the exact sentiment that I think everybody had at that time. Coy, I bet Hutzler runs a 3-man front trying to outsmart Petrino. Don't think it would be wise, but they've done it a lot. Random Yoda, is there anyone else? Is there not anyone else on the defensive staff that can call plays? I'm sure it won't make the defense good, but it really couldn't get worse. Yeah, Matt Barnes could. I mean, who knows, man? Like, I don't know. I don't know what you can do at this point. If if Lebby's not confident in that, then they're not going to do it. They'll just let Hutzler run with it. And I mean, sometimes I'll look at it and I'm like, this is the right play. This is the right scheme. They're in position. They're not making plays. It's like the defense after halftime, you get 2 guys in position to pick off a pass and you can't do it. Like that's just players not making plays. I won't blame Hutzler or Matt Barnes or any coach on the defense. Now, at the end of the day, this is their job to get this defense ready to play. So they do share in the blame. But some of this stuff is just lack of execution, just players that can't make plays. They just aren't making the plays when they're there to be made. And that's kind of what Levy touched on today is like when the plays are there to be made, you better make them. And especially against top 15 teams, you're not going to have those opportunities all the time. State got 2 interceptions. Connor Wigman gave them 4 potential interceptions, and maybe even more than that. I think there might have been another one in there they could have got. So that's on Mississippi State players to make those plays. So I think it's just is shared blame all the way around from top to bottom. It's just not good. James, I don't understand the soft coverages in the 3-man front. I mean, is it a personnel thing? I don't know either. I mean, they're obviously trying to keep everything in front of them. On 3rd down and, 10, 3rd and long or whatever, I'm just not going to play 10 yards off the line of scrimmage. Like, I don't know if they're scared they're going to get beat, but, I mean, the quarterback more often than not is going to take what the defense gives him. and they were throwing a lot of passes underneath at the sticks, and Mississippi State's running down the field, or they're standing there waiting for the player to catch the ball. I think at some point you just got to body somebody up, and if they make a big play, you live with it. But just standing back there waiting for somebody to catch the ball, it's not gonna move the needle for you on defense. I think at some point State has just, and they've done this at times, and they've gotten beat on it, which that shouldn't scare you off. Like I said, if you're gonna get beat anyways, you might as well try to create some chaos. I'm trying to create chaos. I'm bringing a blitz from different sides of the field, from different positions. I'm gonna sell out to stop runs. I'm gonna have a little more press coverage every now and then, and I'm not trying to act like I know everything about defense or schemes or anything like that. I mean, Coleman Hutzler's a much more smarter guy than I am when it comes to football scheme. But some of this stuff is just like, a fifth grader feels like could go out there and say, "Hey, why don't you do this?" I mean, it's just like, it's mind numbing how like some of this plays out. And those third downs, like I think it was lack of execution, and I think it was a lack of running the right play right there. So I think there's just a lot of issues. Steve Stewart, how does Jans keep all of those guards happy? It's just part of the game now, man. I mean, you just you got to accumulate talent, let the chips fall, and hope that everybody's on the same page and everybody has the same goals. That's why you recruit these guys. When you recruit them out of the transfer portal, you make it known to them, hey, this isn't going to be a one-man show. We have Josh Hubbard here. We have, you got Kanye Clary, and you're recruiting Claudell Harris, and you tell everybody what's going on, and we need to accumulate talent, and we need you guys to be great teammates, and your goal needs to be to help us win ball games. And if guys are not on board with that, I'm going to try to find somebody else that is. And it seems like these guys are. Like I said, you had Kanye Clary already committed, and you're going after Claudell Harris, and it didn't scare anybody off. Kanye Clary believes that he can, handle himself, win those battles. But also, I mean, the more talent, to me, the more talent you have, the more opportunities can be created. Defenses aren't able to game plan just for Josh Hubbard. Josh Hubbard's going to allow opportunities for Claudell Harris and Riley Kugel and Kanye. That those guys are going to have more opportunities in this offense because of a guy like Josh Hubbard. And for me, I think it opens up opportunities for Josh Hubbard. His chances of getting more open looks is going to grow because you got to account for 2 or 3 other guys. So it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be a much different team than what people are used to seeing at Mississippi State, but it's going to be fun. Robert Hill, wish we could redshirt Kelly at this point. I don't think he has another year. He's got to play, and he's already played in more games than is allowed, so he can't redshirt. James, you guys touched on this on the pod. What's the deal with Creed Whittemore? Is he staying or is he going? I don't know. Everything that I've heard, and we reported this whenever we first got this news. We broke this news a few weeks ago. Creed Whittemore is going to redshirt this year, which is becoming a thing now, and I absolutely hate it. Guys are seeing that they're not going to play, or they want more playing time, or they want to enter the portal, and they redshirt before their 4 games are up. And I don't like it, but some of these guys are making business decisions. I don't know I haven't talked to Creed. I haven't talked to anybody in his family. I don't know what the true reason is behind this. It would lead you to believe that he is redshirting and will enter the portal after the season. That is everything that I gather right now is that's going to be the case. But he is telling Mississippi State that he wants to come back, and he just wants to redshirt this year and get that year back from last year. And if that's the case, then more power to him. He's going to have some more opportunities next year. So we'll see what happens. But I like the fact that he's with the team, that he's supporting the team and things like that. But at the same time, you kind of quit on your team when you decided to redshirt. You're going to sit out. You're not going to help the team try to win. You're not going to sit in there and fight. And I get there's frustrations with it. There was a lot of frustrations with him last year. And hey, he should have had more playing time. There's no doubt about it. But at the same time, you got a true freshman in there at the slot position that is, above average as a runner, and as an athlete, he's just better, and he won those reps there. So just call it what it is. If you're going to transfer, tell everybody you're transferring. If you're going to sit out this year, tell people that you would like to get that year back and have 3 years remaining. When the smoke clears a little bit and you're able to get a little more playing time, that's fine. But I don't understand where this is going in college athletics, where guys are just saying, I think I'll just sit out. It doesn't make any sense to me. But we live in a world now in college athletics and a lot of other things where, it's looking out for number one. And I totally get that in a sense that, if you don't look out for yourself, who's going to do it? But at the same time, I don't like it. This is a team game, and I don't like just calling it quits when things get tough. I mean, Mississippi State was really going through a tough time right there. The best thing you can do as a teammate is lift your team up, do whatever you can within your power, and that didn't happen. So all I know is that he's still practicing with the team. As far as I know, is being a good teammate. So I don't want to bash the guy or talk down about what he's doing. So it just is what it is. He's not participating in the rest of the season on the field, and we'll see what happens. I think we'll know fairly quickly after the season which way that's going. But to me, it reeks of transfer portal. That's what everybody else is doing that's sitting out. Bryce Hall, is George Pickens a lineup lock with Russell Wilson in as starting quarterback? Man, I would put him in there. I think, with a deep ball guy like Russell Wilson, he's going to look down the field for George Pickens more. George Pickens has been kind of wasted at times in Pittsburgh. I don't like his attitude sometimes. I don't like the fact that he pouts. That's just a wide receiver thing. But he is unquestionably a stud. And when Russell started going downfield to him last night, the game just changed for him. I loved it. Really rusty start for Russ and that offense with him in there, and that's kind of expected. He hasn't really played in basically a year at this point. But he looked like old Russell Wilson on those deep balls. I mean, he's still one of the best deep ball passer in the league. And you got a really good, your best deep ball receiver in George Pickens. Start chunking it down there. The dude's got great hands. Had a few catches that were incomplete that he almost hauled in that would have been just improbable. And then he had some really good catches in one-on-one coverage. I'm excited about what they got going there. 37 points on one of the NFL's best defenses. I mean, it's hard not to be bullish about it. King J, State NIL Collective needs to make sure we keep Van Buren and J-Hub. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're locked in on that. That's definitely a priority. But I don't have any concerns about either one of those guys. Coy Van, I would go after Barry Alexander. He's going to ask for money, and he's a diva. Sounds like you meant wouldn't go after. I probably wouldn't either. Bryce Hall, do you know if Creed's getting any NIL money? At this point, if he's opted out, I doubt it. These guys sign contracts. It's not pay for play, technically, but they have contracts, and you kind of agree on like a monthly figure. It's like month to month, I think, for a lot of these guys and what they get paid. And like Andrew Taylor last year, he got paid for like the first semester. When he quit on the team, he didn't make any more money. And that's kind of what everybody does, is like it's not really, if you have a $1 million NIL deal, some people do. If you have that kind of deal, you're not getting $1 million written in a check up front. It's kind of over time. So I doubt it moving forward that he's going to get that, but I don't know what his contract looks like with the Bulldog Initiative. Random Yoda, did you see the accidentally posted article about Quinn Ewers opting out the rest of the year to prepare for the draft? Yeah, I did. He came out and said that was not true. I think 247 came out because that's where it happened on their 247's Instagram page. They came out and said they were hacked. Normally, I don't believe that when it comes to being hacked, but I do believe that from 247. I don't think they would put something out there and then lie about it. I think they would just come out and say that was their bad and they got the wrong information. And it's easy to replicate those graphics that they make. If you're a good graphic designer, or even an average one, you could replicate that. So I think that's probably what happened is somebody hacked into their account and posted that, but they were able to get that deleted. So not true. And it doesn't make any sense for him to opt out. But to your point, I think, how long until that happens? I think that does happen. I think that's going to happen this year when guys realize that the season's over. It's happened before. When they realize that the season's over and they're not going to play for national championship or they're not going to go to a conference championship, they'll quit. I mean, it happens all the time. So I think that's going to become more and more of a thing. When the going gets tough, these guys are just going to quit. Gulf Coast Waterfowl, I went to the open basketball practice on Saturday and noticed Nwoku and Chol playing the 5. Curious to see what the different sets will look like this season. Yeah, I heard Nwoku looked pretty good. You just need your centers this year to just be able to rebound the basketball, defend on the other end. Can you get double digits every now and then? The guys that they put in there have got to just be serviceable and not just turnstile down there, because you're going to have a lot of talent out on the wings and the guard spots. You don't need the 5 to be Tolu Smith, what he did, at least what Tolu did in the first half of SEC play or whatever. That's not a necessity with the guys that you have, but you do need that position to be serviceable for you. Bryce, do you know if Creeds get? Oh, you already answered that. Sorry, I forgot I skipped over there to that earlier. Landon T, how many players for state do you think make over $1 million? I don't think anybody does right now. It's only a matter of time, though. I mean, I think eventually, maybe even next year, depending on who they get out of the portal in football, that's a possibility. And, if Josh Hubbard continues to move that needle the way that he is, he absolutely could make a mill. Because, his dad is like a really heady guy when it comes to business and his son, things like that. But, I think that he's going to be, a guy that he's going to negotiate that kind of stuff. I think if Hub has another really good year, like say he's like second team All-American or first team All-American, he has a great season this year, it would not shock me in the least if he becomes a $1 million guy. Like it really wouldn't, just because, like I said, with Hub and like his dad and his family, I think they realize, like, I don't know if Josh is going to be an NBA guy, a guy that has a long career in the NBA, or if he even makes the NBA. I don't know. His size would say that he's not an NBA guy. And it's going to be difficult for him in the current landscape of the NBA to get in the league and stick and make a lot of money. This might be the best chance for him to be a millionaire, for him to take advantage of and capitalize on his play and what he's doing. And the kind of, he's not polarizing, but the kind of figure that he is. this might be it. College might be where, and there's a lot of guys like that they're not going to be superstars in the NFL or the NBA, but in college, they are superstars. The Jake Mangums of the world, the Tanner Allens, those guys, they would have been making a ton of money at Mississippi State because they're legendary figures here at Mississippi State. Josh Hubbard's going to end up being one of the legendary figures at Mississippi State before it's all said and done. And I think he needs to capitalize on that. I think his family knows that. I think Mississippi State knows that. And they're going to do what it takes within reason to make that happen. I don't think that this is a family that's money hungry. I don't want to give that impression that's out there trying to, get every buck they can from Mississippi State. But I think they're going to try to capitalize where they can, and they should. And for Mississippi State, within reason, like I said, if you have a guy that is putting your program on the map, and this does the same for football and other sports, if you're seeing that return on investment, it is absolutely worth it to spend that kind of money. If you got a guy like Josh Hubbard that is putting Mississippi State in the Sweet 16 or something, their brand is growing on the basketball side of things. The hump is sold out every game in SEC play, and money is coming in, hand over fist for this university on the basketball side of things. Without hesitation, I would give him $1 million. So we'll see. We'll see where he goes from here. I don't think he's that close to it just yet as far as what he's making, but he's making some good money this year after a freshman year that he had. And if he has another year like he did last year, then the State's going to have to pay up, and there's no doubt about it. James, what's your thoughts on the pass interference incident in the Texas-Georgia game? Pretty crazy, man. I mean, it's the rules have got to be fixed. The officiating's got to be fixed in this sport. It's just it's something every week, and this was just outrageous. And you got people throwing stuff on the field. I mean, it was just absolutely chaos. And too often in games, we have incidents like this where it's just game-changing type plays, and this one didn't have a big impact on the game, obviously, but at the time it looked like it did. Who's to say at some point it won't? I mean, what if Texas sparks something from crowds moving forward? They're going to have to fix a lot of this stuff, and officiating has been broken for a long time. I think it feels like officiating should not impact a game the way that it does. It should. You should enforce the rules when they're supposed to be enforced. You make the right calls, and you're basically seen when you need to be seen. But officials are there just to kind of make sure the game doesn't get out of hand, make the calls that need to be made, and that's it. They're not there to be part of the show. They're not there to be anything more than overseers. And too often we have guys that make themselves part of the game, or that, they make a bad call that dictates how a game is played. It's just, it's ridiculous. So to me, that was something that could have been a whole lot worse than it was. And at the time it was awful. Jackson, if our soccer team wins versus Kentucky Thursday, they could win the regular season conference championship versus A&M the following week. How does the postponed USC game come into play? Let me go look at the standings real quick, and I can let you know. I think Arkansas had one loss, and it's Mississippi State. I don't believe they've lost since, and they have not. So State having no losses, they have the upper hand regardless. I guess it's just who has the if State and Arkansas both have the same amount of losses, Arkansas would win the SEC because they would have more SEC wins if Arkansas continues to win. They're 7-1 right now. Mississippi State's 7-0. As long as State doesn't have a loss, they're the champs. But if they both have one loss, Arkansas will win the SEC. and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, if there's another thing that goes into soccer standings, because you guys know me, I do not follow soccer. I've just started following soccer. I'm totally bandwagoning this. So that, that's the only thing that makes sense. That's how it works universally, I think. So that's the only way it can hurt Mississippi State is if both of these teams finish with one loss. So if State loses to Kentucky or Texas A&M, Arkansas finishes out, without a loss the rest of the way, Arkansas wins the conference. If State wins these next two soccer matches, they win the conference. Robert Hill, any chance Lamonis will give some portal recruiting training to the other head coaches in the athletic department? Well, there's a lot of people that would say that they don't need to take Lamonis's advice on portal recruiting. So James, if they find Texas for the trash on the field, should they go back and find Kirby for pushing MVB? Just baffling that nothing came from that. I mean, at the very least, he should have to pay a fine for that. I mean, I know it was purely accidental, or at least it seemed like it, but it was excessive. It's just like, people have said, if you're a player and if he goes and pushes Kirby Smart, he's probably kicked out of the game or suspended. Why is Kirby Smart just allowed to come through there, rush through there, push a player out of the way to get to his coordinator and yell at, and players are held at a different standard? It makes no sense. It reeks of a buddy system within the SEC, not holding coaches accountable for their actions. Again, whether or not this was, something that he meant to do, which I don't believe he did, it needs to be public apology and fine. That we're fining people for having a fairly orderly exit from the stands and getting on the field, nobody getting hurt out there. We're fining people 6 figures for that. Kirby Smart should be fined for what he did. If you're going to come in there and physically push a player from another team out of the way, fine him. I mean, he's making over $10 million a year. It's not going to hurt him. So at the very least, to take a little bit out of his pocket. But this reeks of a buddy system within the SEC, where these guys are our buddies. We go out, we meet at the SEC spring meetings, we hang out at the beach. Our families know each other. It was an accident. Just move on. No, it needs to be something that across the board people understand. You don't act this way. When you're on the sidelines, watch where you're going. Don't just bull rush in there and act like an idiot and push a quarterback from the other team out of the way. I mean, he acts ridiculous on the sidelines, so let's cut that out. I mean, it's ridiculous. I'm not super triggered by the fact that he did that. And some people have been more upset than I have on it. Like the act of it is just not that upsetting to me, but it's the fact that they made no effort to apologize for it. He had to come back on Monday and have some kind of half-hearted apology about, he called Michael, said he was sorry, whatever. That should have been something that was said on Saturday. I seeked him out after the game. It was totally misunderstood. That'll never happen again. I apologize. There was nothing to it. I would have been okay with that, but now it's the principle of the matter. You acted like you don't remember it after the game. You had to come back several days later and give a half-hearted speech on it, and then the SEC just ignored it. But they're going to be the first to tell you on Monday that Tennessee is going to pay $250,000 because some students ran on the field and celebrated with Josh Heupel. It's just the things that this conference does. Ironically, just it blows my mind. Cujo, what's up, man? Travis McCain, happy NBA week. Who you got winning it all this year? I am so loosely involved in the NBA at this point. I don't know who's good. I assume the Jazz is still good, and um, the Celtics are going to be good this year. I don't know. I mean, I have done zero research on the NBA this year. I probably won't watch many games. That's another sport that I jump on the bandwagon whenever I want to, pretty much. But I'm not all that interested in it, to be honest with you. I love the NBA. I love college football, baseball, and basketball, but I love the NFL. I think I said NBA. The NBA just doesn't really move the needle for me. Jackson, Bronny James, the worst NBA player of all time. Of all time, I don't know. I do think he is where he is because his last name is James. Yeah, I don't think that this caliber player is getting drafted and playing in the NBA without his dad being LeBron James. All right. I'm going to cut it there. Appreciate you guys. Once again, please subscribe if you haven't already. Please go subscribe to us at maroonandwhitedaily.com at On3. A 50% off deal right now. Join 50 is your promo code. Go join right now. Go type in on your URL up there right now, Maroon and White Daily. Download the app if you have to, and come join us. If you aren't with us, you're against us. That's my motto. So come join us. I mean, it's basically what you would spend on food at a really nice restaurant. That's how much it costs for an entire year. And you're going to get the absolute best basketball recruiting coverage out there, the absolute best football recruiting coverage out there. And I think we do a great job on team coverage as well. And, Paul Jones and I, we take a lot of pride in what we do in basketball. And it's about to heat up. So you want to come over there with us. Paul is the best in the business at football recruiting. We both have basketball and both sides of the basketball spectrum covered in recruiting. I cover baseball recruiting and baseball team news. So, and on top of that, the absolute best message board out there. We got the free board at Six Pack Speak, the legendary Six Pack Speak. And then we have our premium board on True Maroon that is filled with the most knowledgeable posters out there. So come join us right now, 50% off. We would love to have you. Go do that right now when this thing is finished. But other than that, that's all I got for today. Thank you guys for nearly an hour conversation. Always a great talk with you guys, and I appreciate you. Appreciate all the support that you have and the support you have for Mississippi State. And hope to see you guys there on Saturday. Keep showing up. Keep showing up for this team. I think they're very close to doing big things. I think Saturday is a chance for this team to finally get over the hump, and you want to be there for that. You want to be able to say that, if this thing turns out to be really special for Jeff Lebby down the line, you want to be able to say, just like you were with Dan Mullen, that you were there. You were there for this first part of this thing. You saw this team get over the hump. Let's see if you can fill up the stands on Saturday. I think it would be great to have a big crowd there. Great time, too, 11:45. The weather's going to be awesome. So go check it out. Other than that, appreciate y'all. Stay tuned the rest of the week for Thunder and Lightning. We got a great week lined up for you. And I hope you guys have a great week. Check you down the road.